Check, check. Can y'all hear us? Or can you see us? Maybe put some more light over here. Let's open up these blinds real quick. So, Neil, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, how you doing? Yeah, so this is Neil Olympio. He is the founder of Wademba Travel. He's the one that I was talking about before. One second, Neil. We're putting some more light in here so you can just see us beyond these chairs. Okay. This better? Let's see. Much better. Okay. Yeah, and so Neil is the founder of Wademba Travel. He's the one that I got connected to with his brother Edwin Olympio. And then this is Kris. You probably saw some cameos of her. She's she's hi, Kris. Hi, can you hear us?
Hi. How are you?
We're doing really well. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
And Kris, she's very shy and she's very humble too, but she's really brilliant, like a really brilliant person. She's an aerospace engineer, and she's also an entrepreneur. So she owns a restaurant and some other things too in Benin. So we're grateful to have her on the call. And then this is Mr. Rosier Willy. How you doing, sir? Can you hear us?
Hello.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to see you.
Nice to meet everybody.
Hi. Okay. So you said hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
He's from Guadeloupe, and
Yes.
right, Neil. He's from Guadeloupe.
Yes, from the Caribbean.
Oh,
From
yes.
Guadeloupe.
All right, Neil. Did you want to give some background on Mr. Willy?
Absolutely. So Mr. Willy Rosier is the head of the tourism agency in Benin. So he has all tourism efforts in relation to the promotion of the country. So the government has started a big effort in order to promote the cultural activities and the tourism, and he's the one heading all this.
Thank you so much for joining us. So first, there may be some questions here in the room, but I wanted to first to kind of maybe start with Kris. Well, actually, Neil, I'll start with you and about like the vision that you have for this travel agency, but for this trip, because this is, I think you've done this trip before, but did you do it like this for everybody? Because I feel like ours was really special.
Yours was on steroids. So, I know you and Jess are exhausted because we had a lot to do. I would say it's a different version, right, that we run for people. And so some of the stuff that you get to do, not everybody gets to do that also, but that show effectively showcases the wide variety of things that can happen there, right? And so the vision, to your point, was about building cultural bridges. That's really my idea here in terms of people are still disconnected, right? Unfortunately, and there are loads of preconceived ideas. And the only way really to realize that this is not necessarily true is to go out there and talk to people, not just look at it from a bus where we got 30 people and just looking down on people, but really being immersed in the culture. And that's what we've been trying to do since 2018.
Okay. Were you finished, Neil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just wanted to give you that brief overview on the company, and in terms of what the vision was, right? It's bring people together through culture effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Kris, so I've got to ask you, you're very involved within the economy. Can you talk a little bit about the role, that you see like Beninese women playing in society now, as opposed to perhaps some of the other like West African countries, like what makes Benin a little bit different in your experience, because you're also traveled in the way that women are in society there in Benin.
Okay, thank you. Just maybe sometimes I will need some help from Nell to translate if I don't understand something. So sorry in advance.
Go ahead and translate.
Ok. Donc, Nel, si j'ai bien compris, c'est donc pour savoir le rôle, ce qu'il y a de différent au Bénin par rapport au rôle des femmes notamment et tout ça. C'est bien ça, hein? Ok. So my English is pretty good. So,
English is great.
okay, so in in Benin, we can see that women have a very important mission in economy. You know, a lot of women, comment dire, elles portent, comment je peux dire ça, elles portent
They
l'économie.
carry.
Yes, they're carrying the economy. Women here work a lot in village, in town. We can see that women really work. And in other African country, women in the culture are more like it's the man who have to care about women. It's a little bit like here, but really in Benin, in the culture, women have a very strong role in economy, and they can do a lot of things alone without any help. They don't need help. And as we already said, in Benin, we can, you know, in the video, you talked about Amazon, the Amazon. So in our history, women had a strong role, not only as a family chief, you know, with the man, but comment on peut dire ça? Elles ont porté des rôles de guerrières, elles ont été reines, elles ont eu des rôles très, très importants.
They've been warriors. They've had very important roles.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we can see it in a lot of African countries. So this is why Benin is a little bit different in history. And also Benin is very authentic. So even now in 2024, comment on dit 2023?
Yeah, 2023, 2024.
Yes,
yeah.
you can see that, okay, even if everyone wants to know a lot of things about the future, about Occidental countries, the history is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one thing that we didn't show in the film, but you know, we were talking about the slave route when they were walking. So they had to walk 120 kilometers from Abomi, and then when they got to Ouida, and then Ouida to the beach. But that entire time, they had the Amazon women actually guarding them, because remember that slaves are not just people; they're just actually, you know, like commodities. It's you know, it's currency. So they would have the women actually walk them down. That's how bad they were. Like, these women could fight, and so they would be the ones to guard the slaves all the way down to the beach. So y'all have just seen this for the first time with us. Was there any part that stuck out to you all, or that resonated well with you? I'm really curious.
I mean, I think I can ask Kris if she has a view, right? So the question, la question, c'est est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose qui t'a marqué dans le film? C'est la première fois que tu as vu le film. Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose qui t'a marqué en le voyant? Et Monsieur Rosier, la même question pour vous.
Ok, la diversité de tout ce qu'on voit, la diversité de tout ce qu'on voit, les gens, les paysages, la diversité.
So effectively, for her, the key thing is diversity of what has been shown, right? In terms of the landscapes, the people, and everything, that all the activities effectively that you see in a few minutes, that, you know, because it's quite condensed, but you can still feel the diversity of things there. And let me ask if Monsieur Rosier has also a view there. Mr. Rosier, do you also have a view?
Yes, I think the same. But the emotion as well is really authentic, really simple. You have, you know, the nature is authentic, and the people, every people seems really, it's the true life. It's the true life. Yes. And when you come to Benin, it's like it's like when you go in your path, when you go in your, it's a land, it's quite a new land, you know. you see what's it's important in tourism. It's the emotion. It's what it's what you will. It's your memories. It's your memories. So in Benin, it's different. Is it different from the other country because the other countries they have a lot of there are a lot of strong monuments or you have big cities, you have fashion, you have everything you can see. You have also different cook. You can find the the city, for example, in Europe, is a kind of history, but when you go to Benin, the history is important, but it's not the same. It's it's the of for example, the life of you spoke about the Amazon, but you have we have the king and the queen of Dahomey kingdom. It's really a strong kingdom before on the role of his kingdom in all the African territory is important. They have strong culture, but for example, the agriculture with palm oil come from the Dahomey Kingdom. For example, and now you have the culture of the cotton, and the woman has a big an important role in the culture of the cotton. Now, it's Kris Nelly is Nelly Kris. You told before that women is important because women work a lot, but women you have different organization for women because they have a social model in the organization of a society where woman has not a role only with child, but
Mr.
in
Rosier,
the
just
work organization.
yes, and one thing, if I can summarize, because of I know that there are a few other questions they are going to be asking, and I think the idea here is in relation to the emotion that's conveyed here, and the role is different from what you see in other countries, and the ability to feel that when you go to Benin, it's not as well known for an Eiffel Tower or Statue of Liberty, but there's a variety of other things here that make it very unique. If that's a good way of saying it, and I think that's part of what the film shows too.
Thank you both. Thank you all for that. I want to actually go to Jesse and have you speak. So Jesse, as being one of the 3 white people we saw the entire trip, I'd like to know what actually stood out to you.
Yeah. Ovo, right? Ovo.
Yovo. Yeah.
Yovo, good.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was on the trip. Somebody brought up, they're like, what is it like for you to be like the only white person, like as far as the eye can see, basically? And I was like, I honestly haven't thought about it necessarily because I've been so focused on filming. And I'm like, they're just looking at me because I have a camera, right? And I'm like, well, maybe, but also I look very different from the rest of them. But yeah, plus the tattoos. Lots of kids staring at tattoos. They'd see I have a bear tattoo on my arm here, and they just look at me and go, "Ruff!" Like they make sound effects and stuff. but yeah, I mean, to be in a place that is so culturally different from my own, a place that I just knew nothing about until Kevin told me, hey, we might go to Benin. I'm like, where? Okay, sure. It was amazing. It was really cool to be fully immersed in a different culture, get a new understanding of some of the origins of the slave trade, the influence that Europe and France still has, like some of the control they still have over the country, some of the things that we got to learn about, like even Beninese artwork that's been exported out of the country, that needs to get back, and there's people working hard every day to get that stuff back, like just cultural stuff that gets destroyed because of something like slavery. So just to be there and hear people talk about their lives and their families, it was really powerful. So yeah.
I think that for me, like one of the most surprising parts was just, of course, the slave trade tour was pretty amazing, but just like some of the circumstances around that. So he was talking about that France and some of the European countries, not just in Benin, but throughout the West African region, they're still really involved. And I had no idea. Have y'all heard of the, what is it called? Imperial tax? Was it imperial tax? Have y'all heard?
Right.
And I didn't know that still in the year of our Lord 2023, that Benin is still paying like what would be like reparations basically for slavery back to France for the investments that they made in the country. So, and that's actually pervasive throughout several of the African, West African countries. And that was just really wild. So when you saw on the video of that Cha-Cha Square with the D'Souza property, it wasn't just that, it's like this surrounding area. And we had this moment, so we didn't put it in there, but there was this memorial that was built behind the House of Zamai, this big like hotel or whatnot, and it's supposed to be an homage to African Americans and also to Haitians, because a lot of the Haitians, can trace their the roots back to Benin, and so you see like all these like historical figures that we know, and like in America, Harriet Tubman, and whatnot, and then we're walking through this concourse area, and there's this statue of this white man in the middle of it. I was like, who is he? And they're like, oh, well, he's one of the slave masters. I said, oh. And I started laughing. He said, what's so funny? I said, well, I just don't know how this would fly in America. Like, you put a museum up to honor that African American experience, and you put him right there in the middle of it. And so it's just so it was interesting, but you also have to, and this is not just with like Benin, but like anywhere, I always have to remind myself that I've got a different lens in my experience. So not everything is like automatically like offensive, or whatnot. But I did say, I was like, oh, this is definitely offensive to African Americans. But I'm just one person. But the fact that was still just it's such a stronghold even today, like in the country, that family owns like quite a bit. I think one of my aha moments, and I want you to, like one for you, was we were at lunch one day, and he has a gentleman that works with him. His name is Roland. He doesn't speak any English. And so he was on TikTok, and he hands me and Jesse like this phone, and it's of the homeless situation in like Philly. And he's like, ask him, is this real? And we're like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we've got tons of them. And he was just like, he went, whoa. And he said, to the translator, he said, well, why don't they just come to Africa? And he said, and so he's like pointing out like, what would be like, for instance, for us, like shacks, really, really, it's not even modest, but just, shacks and villages and whatnot. He's like, I mean, look at this, just come over here. We can teach you how to fish and to farm. You don't have to pay taxes. Why don't people come here? And so for me, it was like a big aha moment, because oftentimes I feel like me with my American eyes would be like, that's so sad. Look at them. He's looking at us like, oh, we have a place to live. Y'all on the streets out there. Come over here, you wouldn't have to. And so it was just this different idea, like just to pick where you are. Like they're looking at us with pity. And so I thought that was a pretty big thing.
My biggest like aha moment was coming back from the trip and going through customs. And they ask you where were you coming from, traveling, all that kind of stuff. And I told him, oh, Benin. And he was, where? And I was like, oh, it's in Africa. And he's like, oh, is it safe? And I was like, I mean, they don't have people getting shot up like, you know, I was just telling, I was like, it's actually very safe. It's a very beautiful country, you know, but it's, I feel like a lot of people are that way. They view Africa, the continent as a whole in a certain way. And, and so to be able to make a film like this and just let people see firsthand what the country's actually like, what the people are like, that it's a very safe place to go. Like that was a big, just eye-opening moment for me, I would say. So delicious. I mean, we're right next to the ocean, so if you're a seafood lover, it's good. But yeah, real good.
So what's your overall vision for this, like moving forward? Do you plan to do like other excursions?
Yeah, to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean,
we were always in the southern part of Benin too, so we've never got to go to the north part of the country.
That's right. And I think that's one thing to emphasize, right? You get a full, you know, if it's half an hour video on just this half. So you imagine how much more there is to discover, right? And it's just the time that we had, but there's a lot more to do. So for us as a company, it starts in Benin, but there are other destinations we will be exploring. So, you know, Guadeloupe is actually the next one on the list. And then we'll have another one back on the continent. But the idea is all the countries of the diaspora, right? And they have so much to offer from a cultural perspective that's different from what you see on TV. And that's what we hope that people will be able to experience. And I think the example you gave about Roland's comments is telling, because it's part of the interaction we love people to have, right? It's not just one way. And him explaining to you, oh, this is how we do things here. And it's him reacting to something and asking you a question. And that's part of what we like to be able to build as an adventure, right? It's an experience. It's an interaction, continuous interaction, and that's what we have in mind for the future too.
Did y'all have any questions at all for us or for them at all after watching it? Does any part stick out? Oh, please. Hey. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Ajajo. I don't think the king, does the king ever speak? Because I've never seen him. I didn't see his lips move. He just went like this the whole time.
You got to be there to find out. But effectively, yes, because I don't understand the stuff, but I could see that there's a way that they communicate. You know, I saw that and I find it very interesting. But there's a way that they actually communicate. You know.
Oh,
so it is fascinating. So yeah, so there's something happening there, because I could hear stuff, but it wasn't in French or anything. So I'm like, all right, there it is. But yes, they have a way of communicating with the two of them.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, that was the way that he kind of put that together. Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I got really emotional after he said that, because I just didn't. I don't know, and I used the wrong words in the video, saying not feeling connected to history, but sometimes, you know, being African American, you don't know where you from, and so it was that, and so the fact that he's saying, you know, like, you're welcome, and we consider you that, but then it wasn't until I got to the Tree of Return where I actually appreciated what he's saying, because it was much more, because I'm like, well, I don't know, I mean, thank you for blessing me, but it was not. But he was saying that the ancestors, that the ones who are actually slaves, who their spirits are back here, their blessing. And so I think that's what kind of just hit home for me afterwards. We didn't put this in the video, but this is one of probably my most embarrassing moments in travel. Happened right before that. So it was hot, y'all can see, and I sweat easily already. So, you know, it was really hot, and I wasn't drinking a lot of water. And you know what happens when that happens, you kind of cramp up. So we were all walking like this big group, and we're actually out. He's already laughing because he knows this big group, and so they all go, and he's like, bow like this, and so everyone bows down. Jesse's over there bowing too, and I go, say, oh, and my abs like lock up like the biggest Charlie horse, and I stood up like this, and I was like, oh, and I start walking around the courtyard, and he's looking at me like, this African American will not come over here and bow. So they had to go in, and I had to stand up literally and walk around for about a good 3 minutes so I could just at least be able to sit down, because even sitting down was really uncomfortable, because, you know, once your abs like lock up, you're just like stiff. And so that was really, really uncomfortable. So at the very end, I was glad that he saw it wasn't like disrespect. It was just, yeah, I know how to fart, basically.
Right. Well, Kevin, I think I'll emphasize one thing, which is you mentioned what you thought an embarrassing point. I'm going to mention also high point that you didn't put in the video, which is when you scored on the beach playing soccer.
Yeah. Yeah, the first day actually, we went to the beach and we saw these kids playing soccer, and I scored out of all of us. Jesse didn't even score. I think you tried about twice. No, it wasn't 10 times, but I scored, and I definitely, like, rubbed it in their faces too, the kids. But yes, that was a really nice moment too. I appreciate that. Shout out. Any other questions at all? Yes. How many native tongues are spoken there in Benin?
Jeez, I mean, that's going to be a question for Kris or Mr. Willy.
More than 50, but I don't have the exact number, but more than 50. But we have 3 or 4 main language apart from the French, the local language, maybe 4 main, and a lot of all over the country.
Yeah, there are quite a few, and some of the like in the video, even when Neil was fact checking us, he was looking at some of the names, and I was putting the original name and not the French name, and a lot of this stuff got changed around, like the way that they pronounce things, because the French couldn't say it, so they just changed it. And so so when they saying, like, the town of Blanco, it was actually spelled the way it is, but they say Avronco because the French couldn't say the V and the L, I guess, together. And so there's a lot of things like that. So I think that also created different dialects too within the country. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So she said that she saw that art was a large part of this. What are some of the other drivers of the economy there in Benin? Isn't cotton?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Rosier, is that something you could summarize for us in terms of the main drivers of the economy in Benin? If you can hear us.
Is that
yeah, maybe you might be still on mute.
Muted right now. Let's you can, if he's speaking, he's muted. He's got to unmute.
Yeah. Monsieur Rosier, vous nous entendez?
Can you? Oh, I mean, let me see if I can unmute it myself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the question was, what are the main drivers of the economy in Benin? If you can summarize for us the key, what is driving the economy today in Benin?
It's an economy based in agriculture. It's about Benin is the first producer of cotton in the world, the first one. And after, we have now tourism. We have a big hope with the tourism industry and on different services. For example, new technology. On what else?
But these are probably the top 3 from your perspective, yeah. And so agriculture, there's the tourism and the services industry with new technology. That's sort of the idea, Kevin. If that helps.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, ecology is a really good one too. What was most impressive is that even when we were walking through history, I mean, that stuff. I mean, think about it. If that was here in the States, there'd be all kinds of like stuff around it to kind of preserve it, but it's just there. Like the history is, they're just walking in history like every single day. Those people live outside of that 400-year-old tree that slaves were walking around. They're just living their lives. And so I think that's a really testament to the way that people see the country too, that they're not trying to do anything like to destroy it. And so if anything, what they're doing now is, as they get ready for this $1 billion investment into tourism, how they can make sure that stuff is safeguarded once the rest of the world starts to come through.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And that speaks to the 2025 vision too that the government has. I think it's important just to mention that that's the year that they expect to be launching, the big tourism initiative, right? And a lot of money has been invested through the likes of Mr. Rosier in terms of trying to help make sure it's preserved and it's something that will be easy for people to get to, the infrastructure, so people can enjoy coming to Benin and really discovering that culture and everything it has to offer. So that this is a big initiative that they're leading at the government level.
One last question. Go ahead, please. The question was, how difficult is it to get around? Actually, it wasn't difficult at all. It was actually, it was really easy. In fact, this was way easier than, the Madagascar trip was very painful. This one was really, really easy to get around. And you could tell that they're making so much investment within the infrastructure to be able to do that, because it's such a mineral rich, but also historically rich country, that they're understanding too that the opportunity that they have to be able to like story tell. And it's a different experience than going and visiting like a spot and looking at a museum. There in Benin, the country is a museum, and you get to walk through it. And I think that's the difference.
And maybe, Kevin, you can speak to the visa process, right? Because a lot of people are always worried, I need a visa to get there. How long is it going to take? It's actually very smooth, right?
Yeah, our visas took I feel like we got them like that same day when we applied. Yeah, and we got an email. We didn't know what it said. It was in French, but we just knew it was visa something. I was like, okay, well, hopefully this is it. But yeah, it was very easy, very smooth. And I think that Benin is one of those countries too that's looking into a dual citizenship too for I think for African Americans, that they're allowing. Is Benin one of those countries as well?
I don't know if it's been discussed, Mr. Rosier. I don't know if it's something that's been discussed in terms of the like some of the countries have given citizenship to African Americans, for example. So I don't know if it's something that's being discussed right now. I know they have other measures in place to help people come and from various places, even across the African continent, right? So being visa free. So yeah, I don't know if this is something that they've officially put on the agenda just yet, or they're working behind the scene on that.
Okay. Well, I know.
Yeah.
Please.
The visa is not free now, but it's very easy to have it. Yeah. You can have your visa for example, in 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we were saying. So the only other question was, are there talks about potentially giving citizenship to African descendants, right, of the continent?
It's a great question. It's a question. We have this question with President, and I think we work on them. We work on this question, okay. And we will see. Perhaps we have the hope that we can find a juridic system for people who are interested by Benin nationality because of their origins. Yeah. But it's not simple. It's you have to find the good reason because you have different question of you have to find the good reason, the good
it's this whole admin side of it, fully understood. And
it's not only if you have black people, it's not possible to say every black people. Yes, perhaps you come from Benin, so it's possible to have the passport. No, it's not possible.
Right. But that's always an important question that they're asking, and that other African countries have had to deal with. And one thing I didn't say on the introduction is that Mr. Rosier's boss is the president. That's why he mentioned the president. So that's how he goes. Back to you, Kevin.
We've got one last question here.
Yes, my boss is the president of Benin.
Okay.
Because next week we was in Martinique, not in Guadeloupe, but in Martinique, and the question is one of the most important questions Africanist people ask us. It was a great question.
Mm-hmm. That's a common theme. Yep. Kevin, you have one more?
Okay. Oh yeah. So in the Zangbeto, when they were doing,
does anybody want to try to guess? So are we.
Watching. No, seriously. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we watched them do this multiple times. You know, it's hard to fully see like in the video, but they would run around in a circle. They would stop. 2 or 3 guys would come over and lift it up and flip it over fully to show you that there's nothing inside. And then they flip it back over and they shake it for like 60 seconds. And then it stands up and starts running around again.
here's my philosophy. Here's my philosophy, because you can't see it, right? Like, I'm thinking that it's got to be a child maybe that's in there, or someone that's, because they're lifting the whole thing up. And so I'm like, maybe there's like a spot like inside there. And when they're shaking it, they're like, okay, come on out now. You know, I don't know. That's what, like, but I was looking hard. And when they cooked the spaghetti, I was watching, I was like, I don't see any water up under there. I mean, I was checking and it was like that. So I guess maybe it is a spirit. I don't know. That's part one of your question, right? He said 2 parts. Yeah, they actually, it was really cooked and it was very hot. So, and I didn't know, I was like, how do they even boil the water over there? How do they even keep it? Like,
Pre-cooked spaghetti hiding there somewhere.
but it's gonna burn. It was hot. It was burning my hand. It was like just boiled. So I don't know how they did that. Right. They all had something in there. Exactly. Neil, Kris, Mr. Rosier, thank you all so much. I know that it's getting late there in Benin, so we'll let you go. Thank you, though, for just for having an amazing time. Oh, and your restaurant, appreciate that as well. The drinks were hitting. So,
merci. Thank you.
And Mr. I'll be talking to you very soon. Neil, thank you so much for being a visionary. And for curating this entire experience and being able to tell the story of Benin, to the world, and trusting me and Jesse to go ahead and do that. We really are.
Thank you for trusting us and in this adventure.
I have one question, please.
Yes.
Is it possible to use your film for show for a promotion of Benin, if it's possible, if you have if you think it's a good use for tourism for our office.
Yes.
Our office.
That's a big compliment to us just to even ask. So I don't think, Jesse, do you have a problem with that? No, we don't have any problem with that. So thank you very much for even offering that. And we'll be sure to get you like some other copies with French. So that way you can go ahead and do that. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Neil.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Rosier.
Thank you so much.
To Kris.
Okay. Thank you.
I was going to say, thank you to
one question to American people. Is America safe? Is America safe?
Interesting. See, that
is America.
Do you think so?
Please answer the question.
Another question,
Well
please.
done, Kris. Well done.
Do you see?
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Do you see the?
Bye for now.
Do you see the next president of America? It will be Trump or